Yo, yo, yo! I'm doing some of my favorite no skip albums just to kind of introduce you to some new musics that you may haven't even heard, but these are my favorite no skip albums. I wanted to really hone in on the energy of how impressive it is to have a no skip album to even begin with, and the importance of doing that is pretty impressive to be able to sit through an entire album without skipping anything, and also how fun it is to actually go see these artists on tour when they do have a really outstanding album. Like, you only get to really see it once, and at the same time you really get to enjoy every or most of the tracks from this specific album, which is really cool. I think that it's a lost art, and I wanted to share some of my favorite albums with you. I am skipping a lot of the major pop albums that you may have heard before, and kind of wanted to take a second to hone in on a couple of more indie artists. Some of these people you may have heard, like they're pretty famous, but I just wanted to make a whole list for everyone. Some of my requirements for no skip albums is gonna be like if it's 80% good, then I consider it to be a no skip album. Starting off strong, I wanted to mention Indigo de Souza being one of my top favorite artists of all time because most of her albums are literally no skip albums, if not all. But specifically, Any Shape You Take, this was a project that was released during COVID, and it had a very interesting touring situation for me personally because I got to attend up to like 6 shows because she was touring mainly in North Carolina. So I got to see her in at my college, to Asheville to also see her, and it was phenomenal. It's an incredibly good project. If you ever get the chance to see her perform live, it is absolutely one of the best shows to attend. I would say it's one of my favorite artist to go see live because her shows are so like rock and like a little bit moshy and just like full of really interesting people, and I've always had a really good time singing and having fun at her shows. The second album that I'm going to recommend, of course, is going to be Ryan Beatty's new project, Calico. I got to see him on the last tour, the most recent tour in New York, and I got to see him in LA at the LA Grammy Museum, and I genuinely feel like Calico is a no-skip album. It's just really good and really strong in terms of like country writing and like production. It's very different from what he's done in the past, but I really love it. And his shows really blew me away. I almost started crying at the end when he performed a song called Little Faith. And some of my favorite tracks from this album specifically are going to be White Teeth, of course, Ribbons, of course, Andromeda, Bright Red, Cinnamon Bread, of course, but this is genuinely a phenomenal project. I do think that it is his best project to date, and it's one of the albums that I've been revisiting a lot. I should be at a show in New York right now, but I cannot because it's way too expensive to fly there right now, and there's nobody that I've seen live that has been up to that caliber of being able to perform their music so authentically close to the tracks, and I really like it. Whether it's like a just simply acoustic set like when I saw him in LA, or a more like flushed out version in New York, like his voice is just impeccable, and 10 out of 10 would recommend his new album Calico. Of course, if you don't know anything about him, go watch my video. It's close to 10K and I'm really proud of it. To kind of riff off of the last artist that I mentioned, I have really been falling in love with an older album by Thom Yorke called The Eraser. It is a really timeless album, and a lot of the subjects that he talks about in terms of the world ending and like even the song Black Swan and how everybody's talking about Black Swan events now, I really do think that it stood the test of time, even though it's a little bit of an older album. I have definitely been revisiting this album a lot because it is pretty close to the music that I'm kind of making now in terms of like early production, but it still is incredible while being quite simple, and I do really like this album, and it's one of my favorite no skips album. It's what brought me to Radiohead, and the funny thing about it is that Thom Yorke is one of the artists that Ryan Beatty mentioned when he said that if there's an artist that he wanted to see live, it would be Thom Yorke. And I really like his personality. I've watched a couple interviews of Thom Yorke, and I think he's incredible, and I really like this album. One of my favorite newer artists is one that is based in London right now. She doesn't really have a full album that has been released yet, but she's been releasing a couple projects that have been pretty successful, even with minimal marketing from TikTok or from Instagram. I haven't really seen her besides popping up on Spotify, funny enough, but she is a London queer artist called SOMOH, and the project that I really love and I'm including is her EP, A Plan to Get Home. She talks about love. It is a love album, but in a way that's very relatable and very witty. And one of my favorite songs from her is obviously going to be her top single favorite, and especially Man. If you really want to dive into how silly and incredible this artist is, go watch the Man music video. She is one of my favorite artists currently, and she is on my list for top rising for this current upcoming year. I do think that she's going to explode in popularity, that she's up there with like Lizzie McAlpine, and she's actually playing a show in London later this year, and I'm really interested in going to see it, but we'll see if I am able to do that. A Plan to Get Home by SOMOH, incredible project, and the writing, the video production, like cannot say more nice things about SOMOH. And another one of my favorite EP artists that doesn't really have a full project like album out is going to be Zsela. This was a project that was released during COVID called Ache of Victory. And Zsela is an artist based in New York, and I had a discovery of Zsela through Hunter Schafer actually pushing this project, Ache of Victory, out during COVID and mentioning Zsela's name. It's an incredible project. It's a little bit sad. There's a common theme between all of my favorite No Skip albums, which is that they are incredibly heartbreaking. But Zsela's Ache of Victory is definitely top tier in terms of one of my favorite projects that I listen and revisit all the time, and it's definitely in my top 10 albums forever. I will constantly revisit this album in the future, and so good. Don't miss out. I'm mentioning a TikTok artist. Don't get mad. Don't fight me. Whatever. It's a TikTok artist. Sombr has gone viral for Skibbity, Rizzler, whatever. All of that aside, to say that the Sombr project in Another Life is incredible. It is good. It is chef's kiss. I really do enjoy this album, and I wasn't really tuning in thinking that I would like every single track on this album, but it is good. My House is Warm. It's gonna be weak. It's gonna be Don't Let Me Down. Like Ivy, the first couple seconds of Ivy, are you kidding me? Production. LA, I get it. TikTok, whatever. But really good album, and I would attend one of his shows. The next artist is going to be quite local, based, born and raised in Virginia, and then moved a little bit to Raleigh, North Carolina. A little bit local. I wouldn't even consider that local anymore because he has now moved to LA. He was once mentioned on Elton John's Rocket Power and has been receiving a lot of noise and making a lot of noise, especially in LA. He's friends with Curtis Waters, and that person is Greek with his newer project, EXTC. I really enjoy this album a lot. It is one of my favorite albums to share with people who are interested in learning about newer music. Incredible production, incredible writing, and a funny story about him is I actually have met him before at a show, and I have gotten to tell him that I like his music, and he was incredibly humble. And then later we went to a party at a friend's house or something like that, and he was there making music again. Some of my favorite tracks from this album are going to be B&B, Safety, Always, Best, Bones. He knows how to finish and write a album, and it's really successful in my mind, and I really do enjoy this album a lot. Greek, like, what more can I say? Boyish. Another artist that's kind of blown up on TikTok a little bit. They met through a talent singing competition, and they were told by the judges that they would work really well together. So they created the band Boyish, and I really like their project Garden Spider. It is now 2024, but this is an older project that I find myself revisiting a lot. Because of how good it is in terms of production and like poppy sound, and F.U. Heather is a really good example of that, and it's really like hurtful and I was introduced to this artist through a friend, told that I would really like this project, and I did, and that is Boyish's Garden Spider. Like Zodiac Killer, Mom, I Think I'm Gay, Anxious Butterball, all of the songs are really good. It's one of my favorite No Skip albums. It's a little bit silly and kind of fun. Zodiac Killer is really fun, and I just love singing to this album in general in my car. I listen to it on the way to work. It's really good and really sustainable. So Bjork's Vespertine, I found myself revisiting a lot because it's an album that kind of deals with kind of trying to find yourself in the middle of life after you've gone through all of the normal things and you're kind of in the stage of adulthood where you're trying to figure out, oh, do I want to be at home? Do I have a life? Or do I want to keep like going and exploring and like traveling and learning about new things? And Vespertine's been a really good project for me to meditate on in terms of honing in the aspect of control, how much you can control your life and being free. And I like those themes of the album. Going through this current stage in my life right now, so I think that Vespertine feels the most at home to me, and it's one of my favorite No Skip albums. It's a little bit older, of course, but it is one of the most common albums that I interact with, so I thought I would share it today. So a couple of these artists I'm going to go through really quickly because you may have heard of them, you may have not heard of them. I just thought I would mention them quickly because these are some of the albums that I also have been loving. Samia, The Baby, so good, was introduced to her through Ethel Cain, and some of the tracks off of The Baby include Pool, Minnesota. She's a newer artist, and to be able to put out a project that's strong is an incredible feat, and I do really like it. Another person I thought I would mention really quickly is Rosalia's Motomami. If you are interested in knowing anything about Rosalia, I would go listen to her interview with Zane Lowe. It is really like, she's so respectful towards the aspect of crafting and creating music. I would even say that her and Caroline Polachek are pretty close into how seriously they take it. Her, Caroline, Bjork are all kind of like in the same school of thought when it comes to being so meticulous and crafting and spending years and years and years on specific songs. Motomami is no exception. It is incredibly good from the visuals to the audio to the lyricism. I'm a Rosalia stan. Vesta is an artist from Finland, I believe, and her project Uskon Televaan is a incredibly well-produced project, and it's not even in a language that I can understand, but it is still great music. It's one of the projects that opened my eyes to music from other countries that I might not even grasp or understand the lyricism, but it is so incredibly delicious and like earwormy. I always hear really good things coming out of Scandinavia and Sweden and Finland and all these artists popping out of nowhere, and that project has really been something that I love. Cool R&B, like, don't even get me started. But yeah, Vesta, Uskon, Televaan. You want to cry? You want to cry so bad. You're literally sobbing. Searows, Guard Dog. You already know, TikTok artist, thought I would mention her really quickly. Guard Dog is just so strong. Oh, she blew up off of TikTok. That's fine, girl. That's fine. Just throw me a good album and then we can talk about it a little bit. Searows, Guard Dog did the dang thing. So good. You probably have already heard it, but if you haven't, go check it out. Thought I would mention it. And finally, my last album, which is a lot more poppy, has been super popular in terms of commercial success, is Olivia O'Brien's Was It Even Real album EP. I know that she is now independent and is now making different types of music, but this is a really strong pop album that I thought I would just throw in, show Olivia some love, and I really want to see her on tour again. Special mentions are going to be Emile Mosseri, Heaven Hunters, especially the track In Another Life. So good. Emile Mosseri has actually done a lot of soundtracks for a lot of really famous films. I was introduced to him through Googling the Minari soundtrack from A24 and saw that a bunch of people that I love follow him. So he is incredibly talented. It's really good. I listen to that song all the time when I'm feeling happy, when I'm feeling good. Another one of those songs I'm going to mention is Jenny Haval's classic Objects album. Cemetery of Splendor is phenomenal. I have shown my old roommates this song particularly because it is so peaceful. It reminds me of hiking, and it is a good song that references a movie that was made in Thailand, I believe, about a war and sleeping. A lot of my artist friends, like people who are really into art, really like Jenny Haval, so I'm not shocked or whatever. Actually mentioned Faye Webster as well. Duh. Who's not gonna mention Faye Webster? But yeah, these are my favorite No Skip albums. If you want to learn a bit more about me and the songs that I love, I have a couple of playlists on Spotify that are linked below, so click them, follow me on Spotify, and let's interact. Let's talk about some of your favorite No Skip albums. They're so hard to make and so hard to do, but don't throw me any like pop albums that I probably have already heard, you know? Just show me something new, something fun, and something fresh. Period. Anyways, yeah, have fun. Keep streaming music, and I cannot believe like I'm a somewhat little bit of a music journalist. Like, what? And if you really love me, go check out my SoundCloud listed below and check out some of my new songs that I released on this channel. Also follow me on Instagram if you want to DM me and you want to say hi, let's chat. What's up? And if you're a special music person in the industry, let's chat too. Like, let's do something fun together. Peace out.